just said. I hope everybody ignored what I just said, because
What?
I can't even comprehend that. Hey, in the top right-hand corner map, swanning all the way in the top right-hand corner of Oxide LE. We have the blue Protoss player coming out from the land of Russia, going to be representing 3D Clan. He is Rail.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Oxide LE, we have the other Russian player, the Russian Protoss player. He is red, representing himself. It is the king. It is KingCobra.
Once again, we have a very important match here, as these two players are tied up at the bottom of the group, unfortunately.
Yeah, feels bad, man. I do want to address that because I did see a couple people in the chat being like, yo, what? KingCobra's third place in this group? The groups that we do display on break are not ordered by score. They're just ordered by, I believe they're ordered alphabetically.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So they're not the standings. Do not be confused.
Yeah, exclamation mark B or bracket in the chat, I believe, will take you to Wikipedia. You can double check that, and already we got what we expected from a PvP, or at least what we wanted from a PvP. Double proxies from both players. KingCobra, though, taking it a little step further.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on right now. So this should be a proxy Stargate. We'll see once the Cybercore finishes. But if this is a Stargate, this works well against low ground walls, which is what we expect to see on Oxide. But KingCobra, he's going for a high ground wall instead, and Rail actually never scouted. He doesn't know what the structure like SimCity is looking like for KingCobra.
Personally hoping for a robo facility, but it is going to be a Stargate to be expected. Really, KingCobra, meanwhile, that probe a little bit in between the probes of Rail. Thankfully, they doesn't get surrounded.
Yeah, and this is a feels bad, man. The first pylon gets thrown down, but what is this really supporting here? As Rail checks and he confirms that there is nothing here on the low ground. So we'll see if this will still work, if this proxy Void Ray will still pay for itself and still succeed.
Yeah, time to have a bit of a change of plans here. I almost wonder if it's worth it here to just go straight into Oracles instead of Void Rays then.
Yeah, we'll see what he decides to go for here as he does start chronoing out that Void Ray. Meanwhile, this is finally scouted by KingCobra. He's well aware of what is coming his way. How will he respond? He's cranking out as many Stalkers as he can. He has a couple of shield batteries. This forward pylon is a little bit exposed, so he does throw down a second pylon to keep all this powered.
Covering his bases. And also his opponent's base.
Oh, but he gets scouted!
Oh, I was waiting for Warp Gate to finish up and have this pylon come into play, but it does get scouted by Rail as he just wants to get some vision on the fringe corners of his base. Since there is no shield battery holdout here, Rail does need to be very, very careful with how he approaches this.
Exactly. That's why I feel like this should be a lot less committed here, because there's no pylons and there are no shield batteries. Like Rail, he just has the one Void Ray. He's gonna do whatever he can, but I think that he should be getting ready to transition into something else. I think.
Yeah, if nothing else, at least that Void Ray will keep KingCobra on his toes a little bit. It's, a form of map control, even if it's not as ideal.
Yeah, meanwhile,
looking to back that up too.
Yeah, and KingCobra goes for a scout. He confirms that there is still no Nexus, so again, he's well aware that he just needs to keep pumping out nothing but units. Plenty of Stalkers here to defend. Only one shield battery. Oh, bold move, mate. Bold move.
I want that to pay off more than anything. He's getting the pylon by Rail's natural base. KingCobra still has a fairly similar Stalker count to Rail, except obviously Rail has that Zealot, has that Void Ray too. It's going to be all about the shield battery and this Sentry.
That it is. Meanwhile, there we go. KingCobra starting to work his way down the ramp, but the prismatic alignment is utilized and Rail does pick off a Stalker. KingCobra does not chase.
Yeah, that's the one thing that can bust through Guardian Shell, apparently. Prismatic alignment. It's pretty good.
Yeah, Void Rays in the backline are pretty good indeed. Meanwhile, that Dark Shrine is halfway done. The pylon still has not been scattered. Ooh, a couple of adepts are gonna get into the main. Forces a recall.
And that's definitely got to raise some flags here for Rail. He's going to be able to deal with these adepts, not before 3 probes go down. Decent amount of damage for 3 adepts, or 2 adepts, sorry.
Yeah.
But he's got to wonder, where did those adepts come from, right?
He should, and he found one of the pylons, but only one, because the second is still standing. So I love this kind of feigning. Proxy here is really going to pay off for KingCobra. Meanwhile, because the because the recall was forced, that does mean that this proxy will be dealt with in the middle of the map.
I just realized that Rail has no form of detection right now.
There's no detection, mate. There's no detection. There's no detection.
He
The
has a
DTs.
robo
There is a robo,
Okay,
but is it going to be enough? Because the DTs are sneaky. Oh, God. He does have the observer. I noticed as well.
Yeah. I was right towards the end. I was like, wait, he went for the proxy Stargate.
Yeah.
And it got cancelled. Oh, but thankfully Rail did have the foresight to get a robo facility out.
Yeah, thank God. Even though Rail did not scout the main base whatsoever, he was able to get that observer, and he didn't send it across the map. He kept it at home, and because of that, he was able to clean up the DTs. Rail survives, and KingCobra is forced to expand.
Yeah, better to be safe than sorry, I suppose. Rail, had no idea what was going on in KingCobra's base. For all he knew, it was going to be a Dark Shrine. And it was a Dark Shrine, so decided to play as safe as possible, or at least as safe as can be after that initial proxy gets denied.
And now we enter different facets of the game where Rail has a pretty decent army. He does have the army lead right now, up by 5 Stalkers. And sure, his Nexus is late, but he makes up for it in that supply, and he's moving out across the map. Can he break this? Can he achieve anything with this? Maybe. There's a shield battery and an overcharge, though. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what really makes me doubt. Oh! But he used it for Chrono Boost. I'm not sure if he has the energy for an overcharge yet.
True, very true. Meanwhile, we do have Blink for both players. So far, not a single Stalker goes down. And Rail does not find a way up the ramp.
Yeah, at least not a way that he's, at least not a way that wouldn't
Mate,
net him some losses.
Mate.
I see a Blink, actually? He does.
Yeah, both players do have Blink, but we see the Blink go forward from KingCobra, and he snipes the Void Ray.
Very decisive here from a Red Protoss player, already getting himself back in this game.
Oh, and I love it. We have the
Here comes the
DT
army.
across the map. This time the Observer is across the map. Okay, there we go. A second Observer just popped out. DT will be dealt with at the same time, though. KingCobra pounces upon the army, forces Rail to back off.
Doesn't quite have enough to go all the way, but KingCobra doesn't really need to either. He has the economic advantage.
He really does, which is a weird thing to say in a KingCobra game.
Yeah.
What? He has the economic advantage? Oh my god.
Huh.
Are we calling it a late game? Is that happening? Is he going to get a third base?
Well, I'm just surprised he hasn't thrown down a fleet beacon yet.
True. It is PvP, though. It is PvP. And I think this is something that I'm really proud of as well, because I don't know if you remember this. I think you do. Last week, we casted KingCobra in DreamHack. I think it was day 1. And we casted him into PvP. And if you remember, he had a very unique approach to PvP, where he got out a gateway, skipped Warp Gate, and went straight into a Robo and Stargate, and went for an Immortal first.
I was trying my best not to remember that, Light, but you had to bring it back up. But yeah, it was a very unique style of PvP that KingCobra had. Almost like he was playing Mech, but the Protoss version of it. Yeah. And Shutdown kind of shut that down. And
Shutdown made KingCobra look bad. Like that was
he really did.
And KingCobra did the same opener 2 games in a row, and Shutdown just shut it down. So that is why I appreciate that KingCobra had a little bit of a different approach here in this, or in the following week, in the following days of DreamHack EU. He's showing that there's more to him than just, you know, that one style.
He can actually play to the meta.
he can play some StarCraft, mate. He's gaming.
Yeah.
Oh my god. He is doing it, mate, and on top of that, he's taking a third base faster than that of Rail. Meanwhile, Rail, instead of a third, mate, he's moving up in terms of tech.
And he is much quicker than KingCobra, too. RoboBay is going to finish up much quicker than KingCobra. And while KingCobra will have resources that... We'll have more resources, we'll be able to warp in more and more gateway units. We know exactly how effective even a single disruptor can be.
We shall see, and I'm also really curious as well how this is going to play out. When it comes to European Protoss players, we have seen some of them favor and lean more towards Colossus. I'm looking at you, Skillus. So I wonder if Rail has been influenced by that, or if he's more sane and, he has been! It's happening!
I was gonna go into a whole thing. I was like, well, it's just Skillus. Skillus is like the only one who pulls it off consistently. But no, apparently Rail has been taking a bit of a page from his countryman's book.
Yeah, it was in the back of my mind. I'm like, I should probably bring it up. Like, it's probably not gonna happen, but I should bring it up. And there it is. Rail is going for those Colossus! Exclamation mark! Funara Skillus in the chat for influencing your fellow countrymen here. I say countrymen. If I'm not wrong, isn't Rail the person who has Polish residency now, or he's working on it?
I believe so. Yeah, it was one of the Russian players.
Yes. He is working on his Polish residency. Unfortunately, you know, the lingering effects of Skillus is still on him. Hopefully he's able to.
That's why he tried to escape.
He's getting rid of Skillus, mate.
Yeah.
Wants to adopt Geralt instead as his father. We'll see if we get there as KingCobra goes across the map, looking to deny and delay this third base.
That's one hell of a portmanteau. I like it.
There you go, mate. There you go.
Deny or delay.
Oh.
Either or would be acceptable. IMO, and yeah, we're seeing this proxy gateway actually come into effect for KingCobra. Hasn't really been able to warp in from it, but because he had the vision, he knew when Rail was getting that third base, he could delay it. I tried to do the portmanteau, but I ended up saying the actual word. I am disappointed in myself. He tried to deny it. There we go.
Look, English is hard, and it is 4 a.m., all right? What do you want from us? What do you... be kind in the chat, please. Oh my god, KingCobra is going for a completely different route here. So, a couple of things. I don't think KingCobra has spotted the Colossus, and what he's going for right now would be amazing against Disruptors. Disruptors pack a huge punch, but Phoenixes are the way to go to disable them, lift them up, and deny those Purification Novas. Against Colossus, they're not amazing. They do have a use, but not the best use.
Yeah, even with upgrades, these Phoenixes are barely just gonna tickle those Colossus.
Yeah.
Literally any other Stargate unit would be better.
Yeah.
And yes, I do include Oracles in that.
I guess so.
Against Colossus specifically.
Meanwhile, I saw this coming. With the Fleet Beacon, we do see a transition into Tempest, which will be amazing. It is, in my opinion, a shame that he did go for the Phoenixes first. I mean, to be fair, maybe he will still find a use for them.
Yeah, having 5 Phoenixes is really important for some utility. Sure, there are no disruptors for him to pick up, but he can still go around and harass. He can still, I don't know, pick up a sentry or something along those lines. It, at the very least, can zone away the Warp Prism.
Yeah.
And will really make sure that Rail can't comfortably get a foothold.
Yeah, I was about to echo that exactly, right? I think the biggest thing that they bring to the table is hunting down that Warp Prism. I imagine at some point Rail is going to want to go for, you know, a Warp Prism and warp into the main base with Zealots, and Phoenixes will be able to shut that down. So that is a very nice response that KingCobra has if that scenario comes up. Meanwhile, we have continued Tempest production, and I do not believe Rail has been able to see this entirely. He saw the Stargates on the way, was unable to see the Fleet Beacon.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of assume that eventually, right, the Protoss player is going to get that Fleet Beacon, but he doesn't realize how soon yet. He doesn't realize the Tempest count that KingCobra already has. For all he knows, KingCobra was just trying to get as many Phoenixes or Void Rays out as possible.
And I'm just worried because KingCobra, he's getting away with so much. He got away with the additional Stargates, the tech, the Fleet Beacons, the 4th base. Meanwhile, Rail, what is he doing with all this time? Like, sure, he's working on a big army, and my oh my, is it a big army? But if he can't achieve something with it, he will be left behind.
Oh, but it's all going to be about the positioning, though. If these Stalkers can get under the Tempest, they will take them out of commission just like that. And that's where the majority of KingCobra's supply is at.
Yeah, very nice blink there by Rail, and honestly, he didn't lose too much to be able to snipe a Tempest like that. Very well done. He tries it, he dies on another.
So decisive with his blinks, honestly. These Tempests are barely going to tickle the army either. Sure, they basically two-shot the Stalkers, but there are so many Stalkers that he needs to take out the Stalkers fast.
Yeah, but even though they do that to the Stalkers, they do even more to the Colossus. One of the Colossus immediately goes down. We need one more volley, and we don't see the target fire, please! The Colossus!
One more hit! But Rail has already established his foothold despite the Colossus going down. The Archons are getting their splash damage on top of these Stalkers. And the Stalkers of Rail are just going to clean up everything else. They already come back in, one-shot the Tempest once again. Purification Nova's unfortunately not going KingCobra's way, and Rail has so much momentum here. The Warp-ins from KingCobra is looking to stifle this. And if he survives, he will be up a base.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, he just needs to survive. Unfortunately, as you said, those disruptor shots didn't land. They didn't achieve what they needed to. We have more disruptors coming out, and maybe it's going to be enough, but with Blink... Oh, never mind. Oh my god, Rail, please!
Well, he had one decent Purification Nova, but had to replicate that a couple of times, and Rail was not having it. You know, I said if KingCobra survives, he's going to be up a base and have some really good tech, but I realize now how big of an if that is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's still far down when it comes to the Stalker count. Rail, he'll be able to snipe this third base, and if he wants to, he can just hop on over and snipe the fourth as well.
Does he know about the fourth? Okay, now he should.
Now he knows, and now it is going to go down. KingCobra, what the hell does he have left? He has a couple of disruptors, a couple of stalkers. He's stuck on less than 2 base economy because his natural is almost already mined out. Ay, ay, ay.
Look, all I'm saying is double disruptor production. But I guess all Rail is saying is Blink Stalkers.
Yeah,
that's not much of a buffer for those disruptors either. Looks around top of that, actually eating a Purification over to the face, 2 of them. But he's got so much army at this point, he is more than willing to lose his Stalkers.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't clean by any means, but Rail does take out a couple of those disruptors. He still has momentum. He still has the army lead. And this third base, it's just not going to finish.
GG. Rail takes game number 1.
GG. Well played. Rail takes the lead here. And I want to say that KingCobra, like, honestly, he was playing fairly well up until that last engagement. We saw it took him a long time to focus down those Colossus with those Tempests.
Yeah, unfortunately, the target firing wasn't quite there. I gotta say, I was definitely much more impressed with KingCobra this time around than when I casted him against Showdown. He was holding his own very, very well, but Rail was so decisive with his blinks. He knew exactly how to catch those Tempests out of position. Kind of feels bad, man, that KingCobra had to go up against Rail instead of anybody else.
Yeah, like, that was so important when it came to that moment, right? He never let that Tempest count get out of control. Like, sniping a Tempest here and there, like, that does impact. Like, it takes a long time to crank out a single Tempest, and for 2 of them to go down before the big engagement even starts, like, that was huge.
It really was. And let's not forget, Tempests take up, what, 6 supply? The army supplies were about even, and then Rail all of a sudden took out 3, 4 Tempests, and 6, 12, 24. And just like that, KingCobra was down over 20 supply.
That's math, mate. That's math.
Quick math. I didn't even need the calculator this time.
There you go, mate. There you go, as we are diving into game number 2. Also, I don't know how I feel about this. Michigan man in the chat. Pog B stream. Voice moist. Oh, God.
Well, that's just what happens when there's a lot of humidity in the air.
There you go. Just like Singapore.
Exactly, like Singapore all the time. As we continue the series on 2,000 atmospheres, LE. We're in the top right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner. We have the red Protoss player coming down from the land of Russia, but having a little bit of a cult following in Latin America, of all places. He is in his first ever DreamHack Masses, not his debut match, but his debut tournament. He is KingCobra.
Emphasis on Latin American cult. Yes.
Yes, definitely. Emphasis on the cult part more than the following part.
There you go, there you go. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of 2,000 atmospheres, LE, we have the blue Protoss player, currently residing in the land of Poland, representing 3D Clan. It is Rail.
Yeah, that's actually something I have to wonder about now. Since the last time we casted KingCobra, you mentioned that there were a lot of builds that he has shown in DreamHack, in ESL Open Cups and whatnot, that are very reminiscent of certain Protoss players from Latin America that we've had the fortune of casting for about over a year in your case. I have to wonder, is it that KingCobra does similar builds that the that the Latin Americans now follow him as their new king, or this entire time has KingCobra been subliminally influencing them until he finally makes his debut.
He's been priming them for the right moment, mate. It's been happening. He's been marinating Cristiano for the past year.
Keeping him in the fridge, and now he's ready to grill.
There you go, mate. Not at all.
I'm not sure. Like, you have to figure out what that's a metaphor for, because I don't even know.
Oh, God. No, I think, again, Latin America, they just really do enjoy how he perceives and plays out the game.
Yeah.
It's insane. The shrines and the murals that they've made in his honor. But what I will say is that this DreamHack run that he's had does show that the god can bleed. In fact, he's been doing nothing but bleed this entire DreamHack. Yeah. So maybe this is where he's able to change it. He's yet to put a win on the board.
Yeah, here's definitely hoping, but we definitely compared KingCobra to Ziggy a couple of times, where he's definitely the underdog in almost every match he plays. But that's purely because he has such a unique style that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. More often than not, doesn't against the top players in the region. But when it does work, it is beautiful. It is unlike anything any other player does. This time, KingCobra does look to be playing a bit more standard, a bit more towards the meta, which is always bittersweet. You always want to cheer for an underdog, but at the same time, selling their soul a little bit. That sounds a little dramatic, but it's how it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is, we do have a couple of probes going down for both players. The depths do get in. Is that what I would say is that, Clem, he's lucky. All right, he's lucky that he didn't end up in the group with KingCobra, because I think we all know how that series would go.
Yeah, he was praying to Coca every night, or I don't know, I don't know who they pray to in France, but he was praying to the ESL gods. He's like, please, not in a group with him again.
Exactly, and I guess it worked out. #rigged in the chat. As Clem was able to avoid KingCobra. It's one of those things where KingCobra, he has very special builds in PvT. Unfortunately, there just aren't that many Terran players in Europe. There are a decent amount of them, but they're just in other groups. They're not here in his group, in Group D.
Yeah, able to avoid most of them for the time being.
Exactly. Meanwhile, we have a very interesting opener from both players here. So far, unscouted, KingCobra did go for a Stargate opening, and this is what we were talking about last week. KingCobra, he skipped Warp Gate. He only made 2 Stalkers. He's going straight into Immortals and Phoenixes. Immortals and Stargate.
I'm both smiling and crying right now, Light, because I love that KingCobra is showing us his style once again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want the series to go to the ace match, so...
I mean, what I will say is that this wasn't necessarily identified by Rail. He did see the early robo, so this should be a tell. Rail should be familiar with KingCobra. We saw Shadow's response, and his response was hyper-aggressive Blink Stalker play. Completely shut all of this down. But Rail isn't going for that at all. He's going for his own Immortals and his own his own Phoenixes.
We've seen Phoenix Wars. Now it's time for some Phoenix Immortal Wars.
I guess
Gonna have to give the edge to Rail just because he does have Warp Gate, but...
Yeah, he also has the Phoenix count, mate. Like, he has 4
actually.
Phoenixes to the 2 of KingCobra. So Rail, if he dominates the air, then he can just pick up the Immortals.
Pretty much. These Oracles have not really been of much use to KingCobra yet. He needs to throw up some Stasis Wards right now, but he has no inkling of what's coming his way.
Exactly. KingCobra is blind, mate. He doesn't have any vision out on the map, none whatsoever. Meanwhile, Rail is getting ready for his big push. Warp Gate is on the way as well, so he can reinforce across the map. Reinforce his army with those Stalkers. Where's the Immortal? There it is. It's on the way. It's waddling across the map.
It's getting there.
Oh.
Real soon. There go to Stasis Wards.
Hey, big brain play, Haluk, a ground unit, and trigger them.
Oh, I hope so. He has an Observer. I believe he has seen these Stasis Wards. I guess the safer option is to just shoot them.
He does see
with
it.
your long-range units. Yeah, he does.
Oh, God, we'll see how he's going to be able to engage here, as he's going to be able to shoot the first one. Doesn't have vision of the second.
Yeah, actually. So there's still a chance that KingCobra can trap the army here. Important to point out, though, Rail doesn't have to engage. He wants to, and he's getting away with engaging, picking off a couple of units here and there, but he doesn't need to engage so long as he's able to just contain KingCobra on these two bases.
You say he doesn't need to engage, but mate, he is down, and when it comes to the workers, he needs to make something happen with this army. He's pushing on forward. All the stasis traps do get dealt with. Overcharge was already popped, and the boys are being pulled.
Yeah, the Oracles go down, the Phoenixes. KingCobra is pumping them out, chronoing them out as much and as quickly as possible. That defender's advantage really working in his favor, but he doesn't just have to worry about the Phoenixes in the sky. He also has to worry about the Stalkers on the ground.
Yeah, but you know what? Enough time has passed where 2 more shield batteries just finished up for KingCobra. Overcharge is only a couple seconds away from resetting as well, and Rail actually backing off a little bit.
Yeah, backing off, kind of. Mostly just trying to draw KingCobra out of position. I was going to say, you know, damage has been dealt to the probes. If Rail so wanted to, he could get a third base. But who are we kidding? Rail doesn't want a third base. He wants to end it while he can.
He does want to end it, but he does take 2 additional gases and a second Stargate, so he is going to be going for that mass Phoenix style that we casted that earlier last week, didn't we? We did.
At least once.
Yeah, I recall. As last week we had nothing but PvPs for DreamHack. Feels bad, man. Feels bad, and now we're getting back into
amazing.
it.
I feel so. It was an enlightening experience, to say the least.
Was it enlightening? What?
Well,
like I found my place in God again. You know, I just took up a religion. We just, I have sinned.
Stared into the heart of the universe. I know the secrets now.
Oh no!
As Rail, he's gonna be the first player to get the fleet beacon now. Most likely, this is going to be for Aeon Pulse Crystals, you know, really beef up these Phoenixes he already has, and he's continuing to build those Phoenixes. I kind of want Rail to make Tempest, though, if I'm being honest.
It's what we want.
Let's take it to KingCobra.
It's what we want. It's not what we're going to get, mate. We have mass Phoenixes in production. Show us the Aeon Pulse Crystals. Show it to us. Up.
He ain't making it. Okay, now he is.
Yeah, there it is.
Half a second of hope that Rail would be corrupted by the waves of the Cobra. But he's incorruptible, mate.
Meanwhile, KingCobra also going for double Stargate play, but unfortunately he's making a wave of Oracles, and this will hinder his Phoenix count a little bit here. Also, there's no Fleet Beacon. Mate, that plus that range actually does impact this matchup so much when it comes to Phoenixes on Phoenixes.
It really does. You want to kite as best you can, but at a certain point, the Aeon Pulse Phoenixes are just going to back the short-range Phoenixes into a corner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that extra range matters so much just because of how the Phoenix moves, because it does move while attacking, so you can just kite indefinitely, and yeah, it can just be really brutal to see here. As at the moment, Rail does finish up that upgrade, but mate, you have a window here to utilize it, and at the moment, he's not.
Yeah, still just trying to be stable when it comes to his economy. KingCobra has actually overtaken the worker count. Rail not producing as many probes as he could. 2 Oracles will start to one-shot these probes and bring that disparity, bring about an even greater worker disparity. But once again, I feel like KingCobra has just poked the bear here.
Yeah. Like, now that the 2 Oracles have been dealt with, Rail should be feeling pretty confident that there's not going to be any more aggression hitting his bases. He doesn't have to worry about defending. It is go time for Rail.
He's got a massive window where he will have Aeon Pulse and KingCobra won't. A little bit of a window where he'll have +1 and his opponent won't. KingCobra going for a mothership? You know what? I think I can dig it, no,
I think I dig it as well. I think I dig it, right? Like, because if it's behind the army, your army is cloaked, and we're gonna need to see Oracle production come out from Rail, and that will kind of interrupt his Phoenixes.
Or you could just get an observer out.
Or we can just get an observer, yeah, which he is, yeah. And I mean, the mothership isn't even done yet. The game may end before it comes out.
It's being chronoed out, but motherships just take so long to build.
Yeah.
It's not even halfway done.
Yo, and Rail, he's pushing on forward towards a third base. KingCobra, there are no more shield batteries. There's one on the high ground, but it's not within range for overcharge.
Yeah, those cannons are gonna slow down the advance of Rail by a little bit, but for how long is gonna be the question. The upgrades equal ISO.
Yeah, and you know what? Because Rail is taking his time, the mothership, yo, it's gonna come out.
Yeah. Surprisingly.
Yeah, and +1 range has finished up, or any pulse crystals have finished up for both players, so now they have equal range.
Whoa, I sort of assumed that Rail was already getting +1, but he actually doesn't. KingCobra is the player with the better upgrades, but Rail is the player with the much better numbers. He's even going to be able to snipe this mothership. It came out -400, -400 immediately.
Literally -400,
So
-400. It did nothing. GG gets cold, and Rail takes the series 2-0.